Yeah, so I think it's really important to know if you're suffering or struggling. Number one, it's not your fault. Number two, change happens with desperation or inspiration. I hope that by hearing this podcast, that you don't have to wait to desperation, that you are inspired by my words.
Welcome to Inspired Choice today. I'm your host, Caroline Biesalski, here to bring you authentic stories, surprising lessons, and powerful takeaways to fuel your journey in business and life. In each episode, I'll take you from one inspiring guest to the next, blending their experiences with my expertise to uncover practical strategies you can use right away. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, stay tuned for insights and actionable tips that make a difference. And stick around until the end for a special freebie just for our listeners. Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Brad Chandler, and I hope I pronounced your name right. Welcome. And how are you doing today?
I am awesome, and thanks for having me.
Wow, and I see you changed your name here. It is your website, and I can mention it already, bradchandler.com. Please visit. And now I would like to introduce you to the audience. Of course, you are a successful entrepreneur and founder of a real estate investment company that has flipped over 4,500 houses. With your company now running independently, you are focused on helping others break free from their past and overcome limiting beliefs to build the life and relationships they desire. Through self-love and mind reprogramming, you have transformed your own life and you are passionate about sharing your insights. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Brad Chandler.
Thank you.
Oh, so great to see you and to have you in this beautiful podcast. My first question to you is, what first inspired you to transition from real estate to helping others transform their lives and relationships?
Well, I was one of the few people who didn't realize that I was in an invisible prison that I put myself in. I was thinking my life was pretty good. Had a couple divorces, but who doesn't get divorced? Smoked weed on a daily basis, drank, made $9 million worth of mistakes, but who doesn't make mistakes? So all of this stuff I kind of just like brushed aside and excused it, right? But back in about January of 2021, I was trying to get my son help for anxiety. And I was on a call with a performance coach, and she said within the first 10 minutes, you have a tic. And I'm like, what? She was like, yeah, you blink like crazy when you talk about your childhood. You may have some unresolved childhood issues that are affecting your son's anxiety. I'm like, me? No way. I'm a single dad. I'm a great dad. I'm there for him all the time. I travel around the country playing in golf or taking him to golf tournaments. So I was like, okay, I don't think so. But she's like, do you want to come work with myself and my ex-Navy SEAL husband? So I said, sure, I was going to do anything to help my son. So I went out for a weekend, and Caroline, over the course of a weekend, really a 3-hour session, laying in this bed in an Airbnb bedroom, my life forever changed. And I came back home after that trip, and I looked around at everyone that I knew that was struggling and suffering. I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're struggling and suffering for the very same underlying reasons. And so I started telling people and talking to people that were struggling, and they're like, wow, you're really good at this. And I had so many people open up to me and say, I've never shared that with anyone before. I've never shared that. I heard that over and over and over again. So I just kept studying it, and I studied under some of the world's best. And now I do it as a full-time thing. And it's just a beautiful thing to help people transform their lives and improve their relationships and their business.
Wow, this is so great. I did not know this. 3 hours was enough to change your life or your perspective?
3 hours. And I had been to therapy for 3 decades, and I'd been to about 50 something different marriage counseling sessions, probably with like 5 to 10 different marriage counselors. And yeah, in 3 hours. And that's the irony, Caroline, is now with my clients that Yvonne and I work with, Yvonne is my partner. In about hour 3 to 5 of working with them, they have these major transformative shifts.
I'm impressed and speechless. And let's have a look at my next question. Maybe you will reveal more of your secrets, of course. Was there a turning point that shifted your perspective and approach to personal growth and self-love?
Of course, it was in that Airbnb bedroom when I realized that for 47 years of my life, I lived with the untruth that I was not enough. And so I kept seeking things external: money, women, yachts, millions of dollars, weed, alcohol, whatever it was. And in that 3 hour session, I realized that it was never me that wasn't enough. It was just the way I felt based on how my parents treated me. Specifically, my dad certainly didn't feel enough. And so I took that burden on. And I can just remember it was like this huge weight being lifted off my chest. I'm like, wait, I don't have to prove anything to anybody ever again. Nope. And that's when everything changed.
Oh, I understand a little bit more because you mentioned when you wanted to help your son out of anxiety, something like that, and your coach told you there's something with your eye, and that means the problem comes from the parents, so to say. And you mentioned your parents, and you were programmed, of course, by your parents, right?
Of
Can you
course, of
tell
course,
us
and
more?
they didn't feel enough. So I think the greatest gift that any parent can give a child is to break the multi-generational curse. Because what we do, unless we heal, we just keep passing it down. And so, what did I do? I got into two marriages with people who didn't feel enough as well. My kids were bound to do that, and their kids. But now I'm breaking that multi-generational curse. How do you do that? Someone might ask. You do that by teaching your child how to love themselves unconditionally. Well, how in the world can you ever teach a child to love themselves unconditionally if you don't love yourself unconditionally? If you're sitting here saying, I wonder if I love myself unconditionally, I created a 3-minute, 12-question quiz for the old Brad, because if we'd have been talking 5 years ago, Caroline, I'd have been that guy that said, of course I love myself. I have high self-esteem. I don't care what other people think of me, but it was all a lie. So if you're listening to this and you want to know if you have some of this programming from childhood that's affecting your business, your relationships, your health, just go to my website, unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz, and take the quiz. And it may start you on a journey that changes your life in ways that you can't even imagine.
Wow, I love quizzes. Thank you so much. I will jump onto your website, of course, after this interview. I'm so grateful to speak with you. And also, I have to mention again, I love your t-shirt. You deserve it. You are enough. Those are the messages we want to hear. And at the same time, it is something that comes from the outside, and you teach people how to feel enough from the inside.
Yeah. So here may be the most important part of this entire podcast. Every negative behavior that you have, addiction, depression, eating, anxiety, OCD, shutting down when your spouse comes to you, racing mind, working too much. We can go on. We could go on for hours and hours and hours. That's not your fault, because it's your mind's solution to something that it perceives as worse. The thing that it perceives as worse is nothing than an untruth formed in childhood when you were going through a stressful time. And what child didn't go through a stressful time at one point in time? So in my case, dad's hitting me with a belt, dad's making fun of me. So what meaning do I place on that? It must be my fault. I'm not enough, because if it's his fault, I'm screwed. If it's my problem, all I have to do is be better, and dad will stop hitting me and love me and stop making fun of me. So our brain has this negative behavior because it thinks it's a solution to avoiding this thing over here. But what we do is we identify it. We make your brain aware of it, and then we show how it's untrue, because your brain can't hold conflicting thoughts. And when you show the brain that it's untrue, you're literally, through neuroplasticity, rewriting that neural pathway that's holding that untruth, that's fueling the negative behavior. Once you rewrite that, guess what happens to the negative behavior? It goes away forever, because now it has nothing to power it, to push it. Nobody was born with depression, anxiety, lack of self-love, eating issues. Nobody, sleeping issues. It was all learned. So if it was learned, what we do in 3 to 5 hours is we can teach you how to unlearn it.
Wow, in 3 to 5 hours, that's impressive. And when you were talking about it, yes, I see it's the most important message of this podcast episode. Of course, thank you for sharing. When you talked about no one is born, I have to laugh because no one is born with depression, because I imagine a baby coming to this earth with depression. How does it look like? No one would love this baby, right?
Yeah, Caroline, I'm sure you've heard people say depression, anxiety, or alcoholism run in my family. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Well, here's the truth. Alcoholism and depression, anxiety don't run in families. Do you know what run in families? The associated trauma from those things. If your mother or father is an alcoholic or has depression or anxiety, there's no way that as a child you're going to escape that. You are going to feel the I am not enough. You're going to have these limiting beliefs that are affecting your business, your health, your relationships. It's not your fault. That's the most important thing you have to understand. It's not your fault. But now that you've listened to this podcast, you have awareness. So if in 5 years from now you're still depressed or anxious or drinking too much, well, now it's more of your responsibility because now you know that it can be changed. You can heal from it.
Oh, and this is how you approach people, right? You tell them, and then they have the aware, not the awareness, but the knowledge, let's say. I would put it like they have the knowledge because it's not knowledge is potential power, and only when you use it, then it turns into wisdom, let's say. You have to apply it, of course, and I can confirm this. So my father was an alcoholic. I never shared this before in a podcast episode, but to put it short, and my mom always said, oh, he started drinking when you were born or something. Of course, how can I not feel guilty? But you reminded me of that because the on the surface is the thought, for example, I'm not enough because things are happening to me. This is like victim mode or so, and then you think about those sayings as well, those quotes, and you say, I can solve this in 3 hours with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact, Caroline, that your father was an alcoholic, there's no way that didn't impact you because you can't be the child of an addict. And then your mom, the fact that she married him, again, we always match to the level of trauma. So I bet you if you were willing or had the time to talk about a lot of things in your adult life were affected, like your relationships, your health, your business, whatever. Like it's impossible not to be affected by these things. Everyone's affected in a little different path, but it's good that you're aware of that. And now I don't know because I just met you. I don't know how much work you've done, but I promise you, like if you're still struggling with things, everything can change because the fact that your father was an alcoholic has nothing to do with you. Put me in there. He still would have been an alcoholic.
Yes, and I can share something. So I'm on my way, and what I witnessed the last 3 years when I started my journey is that things are coming to the surface, and that way I can face it and let's say embrace and welcome it, and then let it go, of course. And my recent discovery, I can share this because we are talking about this, is that he also had a choice. My father, he had a choice. This is the name of my podcast. I'm thinking a lot about this beautiful word that we always have a choice. Also, you choose to be my interview guest today, and I'm very grateful for that. So yes, we can. So, and I opened up. I would have never said this before, but it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I have a mentor, Marissa Peer, who's helped thousands of addicts. And she says that the alcohol is not the problem. The problem is how that person feels about themselves. That's the problem. So all you have to do is fix how the person feels, because I promise you, your dad, the alcohol was the negative behavior that was keeping him from feeling something, probably that he wasn't enough, or the way his parents raised him. He used alcohol as a way to escape it. So he was doing the best that he could. He did have a choice, yes, but unless he had the awareness, it was all auto-programmed in his mind. I don't want to face this painful thing, so I'm going to keep drinking, even though I know it's bad.
So 2 sentences to that, if I may share. First of all, he was born in a, how do you call this? Not bunker, but where people hide, where in the World War II. So he was born in a,
A
where
bomb
people go
shelter,
when,
or
yeah,
yeah.
bomb shelter. He was born there at the end of World War II, and the whole family was there, so his sisters as well. And this was the first trauma, let's say, of his. And the second thing was his mother, which is my grandmother. She had not enough milk to feed him as a child. And yeah, there is a story. They told me they brought him under a bridge because they couldn't feed him. And and I think this drinking thing comes from that. It is drinking as well, and like milk. He had the lack of milk or feeding, something like that. I don't know, but I cannot interpret. I don't know. I just open up, and that means for me that it's not an issue anymore, and I'm so happy that I can share it
Good for
now.
you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but the most important thing what you said is it's not the addiction. It is the how it is dealt with it in the family, right?
So the addiction is caused by the underlying thought, right?
Mm.
The addiction's not what passes from family to family. It's or from generation to generation. It's the associated trauma. The fact that your father was an alcoholic, there's no way you didn't live with trauma, and so that could explain some things in your life. And now you're on this healing path. You can put it all behind you and heal from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So also the subject of denial, because everyone knew it, and but they were not talking about it or something, and there was shame as well, and things like
Yeah, that's
that.
all child that the fact that someone couldn't confront him, they're afraid of losing him because they're attaching their identity to him. And look at your mom. How many years did she stay with an alcoholic? Like, had she had self-worth, she would have probably been like, no, I'm not staying with him. But her mind was probably saying, I don't deserve any better, or I can't get any better. And I'm stuck here and I just have to deal with it.
Yes, it was 8 years, and then because he was also like there was violence. He was how do you call this? He was it was
Abusive.
dangerous, and then she left, and then she
Oh,
left.
good for
So,
her.
and I'm grateful for that, but I was always blaming her for leaving him because she did not talk about it.
How,
But it's
how, how old were you when she left him?
oh, I was 8 years
Oh,
old.
wow. So that's major trauma. Even though your dad was an alcoholic, you still saw him as needing to survive because he was like the tribe leader, right? So he leaves, and that's just more trauma for you.
Yes, it was. I'm on a good way, and I can tell you I work on that every day. But you said 3 hours, 3 hours, right? This is what is, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
there's something called memory reconsolidation, which is just the brain's natural ability to be able to rewrite neural pathways. It's all a survival thing. So if you have one thought in life that doesn't serve you, and let's just say back in the, I'm just going to make this up. Say that a tree branch, that if you were 2 feet up, the line couldn't get you. So that's emblazoned in your brain, just like I'm not enough. Now let's say the lion can jump a little higher and he bites your toe off. Well, your brain's got to be able to relearn and say, okay, now it's not 2 feet. Now you got to get up with it to 3 feet branch so he can't get you. So our brains are built with this natural thing called memory reconsolidation that most therapists, unfortunately, don't even know about. What most therapists focus on is your conscious mind. Well, your subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of your behavior. So when you can rewrite those neural pathways that are buried in your subconscious mind, again, the negative behaviors just vanish. It doesn't take years and decades like it took for me.
Oh, yes, it's just the belief, right? When you
It's
believe you can
yeah,
do it, then it's within the hour, or I would say overnight, you
right.
know. Yeah, it's so great. Thank you so much for helping me. It was a great podcast episode. We are not at the end. I have to look at my next question. Okay. In your journey, what key practices have you found most effective in breaking free from limiting beliefs and achieving success?
Well, the greatest thing is what happened in that 3 hour session. And what happened, we went back to my childhood and we looked at times where I felt that I had no control, that there was some type of stress and trauma. And we figured out the meanings that I placed on those events. So that was the number one, like that was the 90-10 rule. 90% of it came from that. Then to keep it there, I listened to a recording for months as I was going to sleep at night. And that helped me reprogram my brain. And I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of reading. I eat well. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking pot. So I take care of my body. Just getting into trying to be in the present moment, breathing a lot, meditation, yoga. Yeah, all of those things are great.
Oh, congratulations. I have to say this because you mentioned it in the beginning, but I forgot, of course. Yes, yes, it is important and it's a success. You are a success in yourself, so to say. So thank you so much for sharing. And now you're helping other people, of course. Okay, I don't know if we talked about your coaches and mentors. Yes, a little bit. You had coaches and mentors for yourself, and who was the best coach you ever had?
Wow. So I got to go back to the gentleman who took me through that 3 hour time period because he forever changed my life. Most coaches 90% of coaches don't know how to access the subconscious mind. And again, the subconscious mind is what drives all of our behavior. So that is what makes me such a great coach because your subconscious mind already knows the source of your problems. But the tricky part is it wants to keep you right where you are because its only point that it serves, the only purpose it serves is to keep you alive. So that's why you find children who grew up in abusive homes often get in abusive relationships. They don't want that on a conscious level, but their subconscious mind says, hey, you may not have liked that, but you're still alive, and that's my only job. So we got to keep recreating that environment because that's an environment I know we can keep you alive in. So it is so fascinating to me how much the subconscious mind plays a role in it. But it's also very sad or disappointing that so many life coaches and coaches and therapists don't go to the subconscious mind. They focus more on the symptoms and how to change the symptoms, but that doesn't ever give lasting change.
Yes, I understand. And I have to ask, because you talked about survival mode as well. I know survival mode from the brain side. Let's say it's in the brain. Yeah, it's all in the brain. Your mind is not your brain, right?
Right.
What would you say is the subconscious mind, or where do you find the subconscious mind?
So the fight or flight is the amygdala. That's what gets you. Unfortunately, a lot of people spend most of their time in this fight or flight state. So it's really hard to run a business. It's really hard to find your sense of purpose if you are living in this fight or flight state. And what we do in those 3 to 5 hours is we kill that proverbial lion that's chasing you, and then oftentimes you can sit there and take a deep breath and realize, oh my gosh, this is my life's purpose.
What a great share. Thank you so much. I'm so blessed with this episode, by the way. Okay, my last question for you is now it comes. Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
So I have since I started this company, this coaching company, unlocklimitlessyou.com, we are on a mission to help 1 million people. So I can't do that alone or with traditional like coaching. So I am, I'm hoping that I get to the place where I can build an app that uses hypnosis and AI that could help the girl in India who's got $4 to her name and is suicidal can go on this app. So that's kind of our big picture goal is to be able to create something that could help the masses for very, very cheap.
Okay, one more question. Because you talked about helping 1 million people or more on the planet. How can we support you when people reach out to you? We know now where to find you, or reach out to me. I can introduce you. How can we support your project?
So I have a podcast called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. So if you like this type of content, go check that out. And then you can share that, you can rate it, you can review it. That would be a real help. And then if you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/Brad, that has all my social media accounts. So if you want to follow me there, take the self-love quiz. That's also located there. And then finally, if you're suffering or struggling and you just need someone to talk to, I actually have my cell phone number there. No strings attached, no charge. If you're in a really bad place and you just need help, reach out to me and I'll do my best to help you.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so generous. I want to mention the 8 minutes. You know, this 8 minutes from Simon Sinek. I don't know how to pronounce. It all starts with Y. So he said when someone is in a devastated state or desperate, it only takes 8 minutes to change the whatever, the vibration, the mood.
Yeah. Or the
Then Mhm.
Yeah, the thought pattern, like every single problem you have in your life is a thinking problem. And it goes back to the negative behaviors being driven by this thought over here. And when you do the work, remember this thought is always going to be an untruth that was formed decades ago to try to help you through some stressful time.
Yeah, and to survive. And
Just
all
climb.
problems
That's it.
are mental in nature. That's so true. Thank you for sharing. Now it's time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to know if you're suffering or struggling. Number one, it's not your fault. Number two, change happens with desperation or inspiration. I hope that by hearing this podcast, that you don't have to wait to desperation, that you are inspired by my words. You were put here for a massive mission. You were not a mistake, despite what anyone told you. You're actually just the opposite. You're a miracle. So if you're suffering or struggling, that was not the way it was meant to be. And if you think you've tried it all, you haven't. So whether you reach out to me or not, find someone who's a pro working with the subconscious mind. We use hypnosis as a tool. I think it's one of the greatest tools in the world at healing. So just know that no matter where you are on your journey, that things can change and you're probably a lot closer than you actually believe.
Absolutely. That was the best final thoughts ever. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you so much.
And see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Inspired Choice today. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey of growth and transformation. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to stay connected and never miss an episode. And here's something special. Grab your free 20-minute breakthrough session with me. It's designed to help you kickstart or level up your business. Just check out the show notes for more. Until next time, keep making those inspired choices. See you in the next episode.